So very good day to everybody. This is wireless networks, and in today's class we'll discuss about the introduction to wireless communication systems. So of course this is especially for you, my dear students and young researchers, and you can reach me at dr.christoananth@gmail.com. So before beginning the session, once again let me thank God for giving me this opportunity to deliver this useful session to share my knowledge among my fellow national, international participants, students and young researchers. So in this class, we'll discuss about a short introduction towards wireless communication systems. What are the characteristics of the antenna? How you will propagate the electromagnetic waves. We'll have a brief history of WC, wireless communication. Why we actually use wireless communication. What about its transmission path? What about its reception path? And we'll discuss about the types of wireless communication systems and about TV and radio broadcasting. So at regular intervals, I'll be giving you some short videos to discuss the knowledge in the topics, and I've already given the independent work for you in the HEMIS. Please complete them as soon as possible. Right. So this is WC, wireless communication. It's actually, you know that it's fastest growing, and of course it is considered as the most vibrant technological areas in the communication field. So wireless communication is the way that you transmit the information maybe between one point to another without wires, without cables, or maybe any physical medium. So generally, if you take in the case of a communication system, generally the information is transmitted from transmitter to receiver, maybe through a limited distance. So why we need wireless communication? So using this wireless communication, the transmitter and receiver can be placed anywhere, like maybe some few meters, maybe like a TV remote control. We try to operate the TV from one particular area, or maybe like few thousands of kilometers, maybe if you take in the case of satellite communication. So we actually live in the world of communication. Everywhere you see mobile phones, communication, okay, even the Netflix you see in the smart TV, that is also communication, okay, everywhere. For example, you are building a project, that's also communication. So wireless communication has a very important part in our lives. So some of the most commonly used wireless communication systems in our day-to-day life are nothing but mobile phones, smartphones that you try to use, GPS, global positioning system receivers, remote controls, that not only for TV, for anything and everything you use remote control, and Bluetooth audio. You connect the even the mobile, okay, through the Bluetooth audio device. Maybe if I am taking class, okay, for a long distance, so wireless I can convey this information through the Zoom meetings, okay, so that I can do that, okay, and maybe the Wi-Fi hotspot, okay, so that also comes under wireless communication system. So here you see a GSM, mobile phones, radio frequency communication, RF, radio frequency identification, Wi-Fi, wireless fidelity, IR, infrared, Bluetooth, okay, and then we have GPS, global positioning system. So communication system, as you know, it can either be wired or be wireless, and the medium used for this communication can be guided medium or maybe unguided medium. So if you take in the case of wired communication, the media is a physical path, like maybe a coaxial cable, a twisted pair cable, and maybe optical fiber links, which is going to guide the signal to propagate between one point to another point. So this one you can call it as the guided medium. So wireless communication does not actually require any physical medium, but it is going to propagate the signal through the space. So since space only allows for signal transmission without any guidance, so the medium which is used in the wireless communication is nothing but unguided medium. So if there is no physical medium, means how does wireless communication transmit the signals? So even though there are no cables that is used in the wireless communication, of course the transmission and reception of the signals is carried over by using antennas. Of course you know about antenna wave propagation. So antennas are nothing but electrical devices that is going to transform the electrical signals to the radio signals using electromagnetic waves, EM waves, and maybe between radio signals to electrical signals also. So this electromagnetic waves is going to propagate through the space. So both the transmitter and of course receiver will be having an antenna. So electromagnetic wave will be having electromagnetic energy, okay, of the electromagnetic field through the space. So here electromagnetic waves, EM waves, will be having gamma rays, okay, X rays, UV rays, ultraviolet rays, visible light, IR rays, infrared rays, microwave rays, and of course radio waves. Fine. So we'll now discuss about electromagnetic waves. So electromagnetic waves are also called as radio waves, that is going to be used in wireless communication to carry the signals. So EM wave is going to have both the electric field as of course magnetic field in the form of the time varying sinusoidal waves. So both the fields are actually oscillating perpendicular to each other, and of course the direction of the propagation of the electromagnetic field is perpendicular to both the fields. So an electromagnetic wave mathematically can be described using the Maxwell's equations. Maxwell's equation 1, Maxwell's equation 2, Maxwell's equation 3, and Maxwell's equation 4. So the pictorial representation we'll see, okay, where the electric field, it's along the y axis, magnetic field along the z axis, and electromagnetic wave along the x axis. Okay, so we see the propagation of electromagnetic waves, okay, so x axis, y axis, z axis. Okay, so electric field, magnetic field, electromagnetic wave propagation. Generally, if you consider wireless communication in the olden days, those were the golden days, okay, so maybe in the ship, even the Titanic, you would have seen, okay, so they would have used some smoke signals, flags, flashing mirrors, that was used as a part of wireless communication, and of course from there only it is continuously evolving. So modern wireless communication by using electrical signals and of course radio waves for communication, that has been in and around for more than 100 years. So if you take in the years of 1897, so it was Marconi who successfully demonstrated the wireless telegraphy by sending electromagnetic waves for a short distance, 100 meters. So that's how radio communication came into effect, and this radio is derived from the radiant energy. So by early 1900s, transatlantic radio transmission has been established, where Marconi was successfully using these transmitted messages in the form of the Morse code. Okay, Morse code, it's a very interesting topic, you can go through that. So the technology related to the wireless communication and of course the wireless system has been rapidly advancing, and that enable transmissions over longer distance, of course with lesser cost, with cheaper devices. Of course whatever the device that you should use, okay, that should not be costly, okay, that should be cheaper enough. Okay, so throughout the development of wireless communication, there are several wireless systems and of course methods that flourish, and many got disappeared even. Okay, so the best example would be telephone communication from one end to another end. Okay, we used like landline phones, yes. Okay, so telephone communication was there, television transmission was also there. Okay, so initially all telephone related communication was carried out using wire, landline phones. Okay, so that you can call it as a landline telephone. But the rapid growth of mobile communication started to replace the complex wire telephone system. So wire technology of course became outdated and got replaced with the wireless communication. So another scenario where wireless communication got replaced with the wired communication is nothing but television broadcasting. Okay, so even TV you cannot say, okay, without wireless we can do that. Of course wireless, it's a problem. Okay, we will not get the signals as clear. Okay, so wired is really best with the case of TV broadcasting. So in the earlier days, so TV signals were actually broadcasted using wireless radio transmitters, but this setup was actually replaced by the cable TV. Okay, so that is where the technology evolved, developed, and we are going to choose what is actually best for us. Okay, in some areas we can use wired communication, in some areas wireless communication is being used. Okay, so we'll come up to this point why we actually use this wireless communication. So when wired communication can do most of the tasks that a wireless communication can, so why we actually need this wireless communication? So the most important reason is mobility. So anywhere and everywhere you go, for example, you are residing in one region, you are moving to another region. Okay, so there also you get the network. For example, you travel between country to country, of course you need network. That's mobility. Okay. So apart from mobility, wireless communication also offers adaptability, flexibility, ease of use. That is making wireless communication much more popular. So wireless communication, like the mobile telephony, can be used anywhere, anytime, and of course with no degradation in the throughput performance. Okay. So you are enjoying high throughput performance using UMTS, WLAN, wireless LAN, okay, DAB, GSM, okay, Tetra. Okay, so as the cars move around, okay, so they are getting attached to that particular stations. Okay, so we'll have the PDA, okay, personal device assistant, laptop, GSM, universal mobile telecommunication system, wireless LAN, Bluetooth, everything has been then and there when we move to between like satellites to satellites. Okay, so we'll see another one feature, that is infrastructure. So the setup as and of course the installation of infrastructure for the wired communication system is of course a very costly, expensive and a time consuming job. So infrastructure for wireless communication, of course it can be installed easily and of course with low cost. So in emergency situations and of course remote locations where the setup of wired communication is difficult, of course we try to prefer the wireless communications. Okay, so why people use and people are behind this wireless communication? Okay, we'll see a set of advantages of wireless communication technology, wireless networking, and of course wireless systems over the wired communication. So of course cost wise, mobility, mobile, okay, flexibility, adaptability, ease of installation, reliability. So there are many features. Okay, so the cost of installing wires, cables, and of course other infrastructure is eliminated in the case of wireless communication. And of course, when you try to lower the overall cost of the system, that becomes much more advantageous over the wired communication system. So if you are trying to install the wire network in a building, so you have to dig it. Okay, you have to lay the underground cables and running those wires across the streets. Okay, it's much more difficult, it's much more costly, and of course it's a much more time consuming job. So in maybe historical buildings, let us take in the case, so you cannot drill holes for the cables. Okay, so that is going to destroy the integrity and of course the importance of the building. Okay, so also in older buildings with no dedicated lines for communication, so you can use Wi-Fi or maybe wireless LAN. That is the only option that is available. And if you take in the case of mobility, that's an advantage that you will enjoy with the case of wireless communication. So you can freely move around while still being connected to the network. So maybe if you are going to another network, okay, that also it gets connected. And ease of installation. So setup and installation of wireless communication networks, equipment, and of course infrastructure is very easy. We need not have to worry about the cables. Okay, so the time required to set up a wireless system like maybe Wi-Fi network, okay, so that is very less when you generally implement a full cable to network. Okay, so that's the advantage that you will enjoy with the ease of installation in the wireless communication systems. Okay, then reliability. So there are no cables, no wires. Okay, so there is no chance of communication failure. So maybe like the cables are damaged, what happens? So that's no problem. Okay, so for example, environmental conditions are damaging the cable splice, natural diminution of metallic conductors, so we don't have any problems, it's reliable. And disaster recovery, for example, accidents happen, okay, like fire accident, flood comes, other disasters. Okay, so the loss is very minimal, okay, with the case of the wireless communication systems. So these are the basic elements of the wireless communication system. So it can be divided into three elements: transmitter, the channel, okay, the channel, and the receiver. Okay, so the information is passed on to the source encoding. Then we have maybe two-level encryption, okay, channel encoding, modulation, multiplexing, and afterwards it will go to the channel, the wireless channel. Then here multiplexing, demultiplexing, modulation, demodulation, channel encoding, channel decoding, encryption, decryption, source encoding, source decoding, and afterwards we are extracting the estimated information. Okay, so the transmission part of the wireless communication system will have encoder, encryption, modulation, and of course multiplexing. So maybe the signal from the source is passed on to source encoder. So where you are going to convert the signal into a suitable form for applying the signal processing techniques. So here the redundant information from the signal is actually removed, okay, in order to maximize the utilization of resources. So this signal is actually encrypted using the encryption standard, because the signal and of course the information is actually secured and there is no unauthorized access. Okay, then you have channel encoding. Okay, so it's actually applied to the signal in order to reduce noise interference problems also. So during this process, a very small amount of redundancy is introduced in the signal, so that becomes much more reliable, much more robust against the noise. Okay, so here the signal is modulated using the modulation technique, maybe like phase shift keying, frequency shift keying, and of course quadrature phase shift keying, so that signal can be easily transmitted using the antenna. So the modulated signal is actually multiplexed with the other signals using different multiplexing techniques like TDM, time division multiplexing, or maybe FDM, frequency division multiplexing, in order to share the valuable bandwidth. Okay, then you have channel. Okay, so channel is nothing but the medium. Okay, so channel is nothing but the medium of the transmission of the signal, maybe an open space. Okay, so wireless channel is actually unpredictable and it's highly variable and of course random in nature. So channel, maybe you will have interference problem, distortion, noise, scattering also, and the result is that maybe the received signal, whatever you try to receive it, it will be full of errors. Okay, so the job of the receiver, you are going to collect the signal from the channel and it is going to reproduce it as the source signal. So here we will have some parts like demultiplexing, demodulation, channel decoding, decryption, and of course source decoding. So from the components of the reception part, you are very clear that the task of the receiver is just the opposite of the transmitter. Okay, so the signal from the channel is actually received by the demultiplexer and you are going to separate from the other signals. Okay, so the individual signals are actually demodulated using the demodulation techniques, and of course you are going to recover the original message signal. So here the redundant bits from the messages are actually removed using this channel decoder. So this is the reception part. So since the message is actually encrypted, decryption is going to remove the security and it is going to turn into simple sequence of bits. So this signal you are going to give it to the source decoder in order to reconstruct the original transmitted message or maybe the original transmitted signal. Okay, so we'll have different types of wireless communication systems. So if you take wireless communication, immediately you will think about mobile phones. So for talking, for browsing the internet, for going through the multimedia features. So everything is made available to the user as and when we pass through. Okay, so we are not fixed, we are moving across. So everywhere we are getting. So with the help of the wireless communication services, we can actually transfer text, data, okay, voice, audio signal, okay, sound note, okay, videos, images, we are transferring, animations, we are transferring. Okay, so wireless communication system will have different services like video conferencing, like Google Meet, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, cellular telephone, paging. Earlier days we are using paging. Okay, so there also we have TV, radio. Okay, so we have different communication system, and the services also are wide. They are diverse enough. Okay, so there are several advantages. There are several applications of wireless communication systems. We have TV and radio broadcasting, satellite communication, okay, radar, okay, cellular communication, mobile telephone system, okay, GPS, global positioning system, and IR communication, infrared communication. Of course, we have WLAN, okay, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, paging, cordless phones, and of course radio frequency identification. So there are several ways that you try to apply for utilizing this wireless communication system. So wireless communication system, again we are classifying into two types: simplex, okay, and duplex. So simplex and duplex, you have half duplex and full duplex. So simplex means it's one-way communication only. Okay, like you have radio broadcast system, like a 106.4, 128.3 something frequency band. You are hearing to the news, okay, the entertainment part. Okay, half duplex is two communication two-way communication, but not simultaneous one. For example, I speak, then you listen, then you speak, I listen. Okay, so maybe like walkie-talkie, like the police will be having. Okay, civilian band radio. Okay, so that is the example of the half duplex. Full duplex is two-way communication and also simultaneously. For example, mobile phone, I speak something, immediately you also speak something. So that is the application of the full duplex communication. Okay, so the devices maybe can vary between service to different service because of the different size, different shape, data throughput, and of course cost. So area covered by the wireless communication system is also a very important factor. So maybe it might vary. Okay, like building to building, office, campus, city, like small area. Maybe it's not a large area. Okay, or maybe global coverage. Okay, so that varies. Okay, so TV and radio broadcasting here, radio is considered to be the first wireless service to the broadcast. So that's an example of the simplex communication system where information is transmitted only in one direction and of course users receiving the same data. For example, in radio somebody speaks and maybe thousands, 10,000s listen simultaneously. So that is the way with the radio. Okay, so this is TV and radio broadcasting. Okay, so here we have different TV, we have the antenna, we have one antenna through radio, it is being broadcasted. So the most commonly used wireless communication system, you can call it as mobile phone technology. Okay, so mobile services, like it has evolved like no other technology. Okay, so today's mobile phones are not limited. For example, there are not mobile phones where you can only make calls, you cannot do anything. Earlier there was, okay, like Nokia, button cells. Okay, you can do that. Okay, but now everything, several features have added up and based on the preferences like Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, GPS, FM radio. Okay, now we have come into 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. Okay, we are marching into 6G. Okay, so 5G, it's the successor for the 4G. Okay, so apart from the increased data transfer rates, okay, so we have like 5G, we have IoT, Internet of Things. So based on specific features, specific applications, specific automobiles, that we are marching into a futuristic requirement. Okay, so this is the eminent work for you, like basics of data transmission in wireless networks. What are the types of signals for the data transmission over the communication channels? So please go through them, please complete them. Okay, I have already given you the instructions. Please submit them in the HEMIS and I will be checking them as soon as possible.